Hi, I'm Doug Keck. This is an EWTN Bookmark Brief. Just had the great pleasure of speaking with Archbishop Emeritus Charles J. Chaput about his latest book, Things Worth Dying For, Thoughts on a Life Worth Living, published by Henry Holt & Company, available through our EWTN religious catalog. So, Archbishop, tell us, why did you decide to write this book?
I wrote the book for two reasons. One, because I've had a long life of rich blessings, and as I think about the end of my life, I thought maybe I had something more to say to the church, and there's no better way of doing that than to write a book because it lasts a long time. That was one of the reasons for it. The other reason is that people were pressuring me to do an autobiography or something like that. You know, I had requests for interview kind of books where I talk about myself, and I didn't really want to do that, but I thought that some of my memories from the past would be useful to talk about issues at the present, and that's what I try to do with this book. And there are a few comments in the book about my life and my background, but for the most part, it's about the present time and how thinking about the future, about our death, enables us to live in the present, our lives, in a rich and more generous kind of way.
Mm-hmm. In one of the chapters, This Idea is a Killer, there's a quote here from, you say, Isaac Asimov, the great biochemist and author of prophetic science fiction, warned, quote unquote, that science acquires knowledge faster than humanity acquires wisdom. Is that what we're dealing with today?
Oh, we certainly are. I think for most people, the nuclear weapons are the clearest example of this, where we have developed the ability to destroy the world and haven't developed the wisdom on how to control it very well, because we're always living in the possibility of mistakes and hostilities that will lead to mutual kinds of destruction. Another example of that, of course, is our experiments with genetic issues, where we don't know. We have the ability to do all kinds of things, maybe even to clone human life, but we don't have the wisdom on how to limit ourselves from doing what we could do because of the danger of doing that. So we're offered temptations every day by the devil to act like God, and it's so important to be prudent and wise, which means that we know that we're not God. We're very fallible human beings that could do a lot of damage if we're not careful.
Right. Now, in this book, and you're talking about death, you talk about memory, and near the end of the book you say, as we age, unless we walk in a friendship with God and others who love Him, memory can become as much a burden as a solace. How so?
Well, one of the things I've noticed about myself as I've gotten older is that even my dreams are different today than they were when I was younger. You know, I dream about the past and my relationships with my parents and earlier relationships in my life as a religious or as a priest. And if those memories had been sad or destructive, I'm sure it would make my own life today very, very sad and burdensome. But, you know, for the most part, my life has been blessed by God's grace and the gift of friendship, the gift of a peaceful and beautiful family. And all those kind of memories make a huge difference as I enter the twilight of my life here and prepare for the fullness of life, which is to come.
Right. You also talk about Memento Mori and thinking about death. And you had an example I thought it was interesting, going to our Lord. You talk about the fact that He knew Lazarus was dead, and then you go on to say, God became man, and when He confronted death, He wept. Why is that a powerful statement in your mind?
Well, He wept because we do that. All of us weep in the face of death. I wasn't able to preach at the funerals of my mother or father because I would weep uncontrollably when I was thinking about them. So I was blessed to have a bishop friend and a priest friend preach at those funerals, because we don't, when we face death personally, we don't know how to handle it until we deal with it deeply enough or personally enough. And Jesus demonstrates His humanity, which He shares with us by His own weeping at the death of His friend. And I think that He really joins us in all the sorrows of life in a very personal way by embracing that part of who we are.
Now, I noticed in the title itself, you have a part that says life Worth Living, which kind of reminds me of Archbishop Sheen's book. Was there a connection at all in your mind?
Well, I think anybody who is from my generation knows that television program of Archbishop Fulton Sheen, which has become popular again today in the lives of many young adult Catholics. And I think that the subtitle flows out of the main title because if something's worth dying for, it's certainly worth living for. But I certainly was aware of that connection with Archbishop Sheen. I wish I had his ability, which I don't.
Well, don't undersell yourself, Archbishop. Also, just before we go, you had a quote in the beginning of the book from Francois Mauriac. Anyone who has truly known God can never be cured of him. Did you pick that quote?
Yes. Yeah. It's not just there, but I've used it oftentimes in my writing and speaking over the years because it captures something of what I've experienced. And I think because of that, it probably captures a basic element of the life of every believer. You know, we're fascinated with God because he's made us for himself, and our souls are going to be restless until they rest in him. St. Augustine was very, very clearly right when he said that.
Right. Very good. Well, thank you for your time, Archbishop Emeritus Charles J. Chaput. Things Worth Dying For. Thoughts on a Life Worth Living. Definitely available through our EWTN religious catalog, EWTNRC.com, all things Catholic. This has been an EWTN Bookmark Brief. Look for the entire interview coming on the network and also on our on-demand channel as well. I'm Doug Keck. Thanks so much for stopping by. We'll see you next time.